is what they call long in the tooth. It needed to be over yesterday. It's cost the American taxpayer $350 billion that we don't have, thanks to Biden. And, like President Trump, they might not be American men and boys that are the bodies are piling up over there, but you can't be a fan of humanity and think that that's acceptable, because this is like World War One tactics, the way that war has been fought. Artillery, trenches, it's just carnage, and it needs to stop. And I don't really care who's the winner, who's the loser. From a humanity standpoint and a financial standpoint, it needs to end. It's really disrupted the world, and it did not need to happen. So let's continue on that thread here. Ukraine deputy PM, so like the vice president, okay, her name's Yulia Rydenko, signed the deal with Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, creating a global investment fund. Trump has been working on this for months. What are his goals? To secure U.S. access to Ukraine's critical minerals, develop Ukraine's economy so it could stand on its own. Uh, so this reporter is recapping that explosive conversation in the White House on February 28th, the drama and what was discussed. Well, this isn't just one agreement, it's three separate documents. Ukraine must sign all three of them or no deal. Uh, Vydenko was told not to bother coming to Washington without all three done. The big question, will this deal reshape the entire Russia Ukraine conflict? Sources say yes. So what's next? The White House is still holding full details close. We don't know what's in all three of those agreements yet. But so it's a three-tier deal, and you got a taste of it there. And I think the fact that the Ukraine part of the exchange of not joining NATO, which is what Russia absolutely does not want. They don't want Ukraine joining NATO, getting closer with Western Europe, in other words, and the United States, I guess, if you look at it from that perspective, is one of the trade-offs, friends, is that Ukraine is going to they can't pay the 350 billion back. Trump knows this, don't listen to anybody in MAGA who's telling you that we're going to get that money. We're not going to get that money back. It's long been spent. Zelensky doesn't even know how it was spent. And it really doesn't matter because we may have done something a little more valuable here. And that is forced Ukraine into being on its own, not being dependent on NATO, not being dependent on foreign money. If they want to buy tank buster missiles again, don't ask the United States, don't ask Israel, don't ask Europe. Uh, Build your own. And how are you going to build that? Well, you're going to start using some of your own resources. You're going to and they won't be allowed to be captured by Russia. You're gonna have to start from scratch basically and rebuild your economy because your economy you didn't really have one. It was based on agriculture exports. Now, because of all that artillery fire, it's disrupted the earth. For those of you that don't know, Ukraine, they have really fertile soil that's got a lot of nitrates in it. So, like when you go to Home Depot or the garden store and you're buying like potting soil to do your tomatoes or whatever, it's obvious, it's dark, almost black, and it's got a lot of added stuff in it, nutrients. So your vegetables will grow. So it's been tainted, right, in a good way. Well, you go to Ukraine, you get a little steel rake and you scratch up some earth. That's what it looks like under their grass, ready to go. You don't need to add anything, very fertile. That's why it's called the breadbasket of Europe. Okay. Now, sadly, at least in the eastern part of that country, that's been destroyed or disrupted. So they're not going to be able to export the amount of crops that they were, or wheat or anything like that, because their land has been just so fucked up from war. But they do have what hasn't been disrupted is graphite, things like that, the rare earths that they could pull out of there. So that's what they're going to have to depend on to rebuild their economy. So there's that piece of news. Okay. This is a big outlook here. Let me get something else up in the nest. The nest, I think, guys, is essential. I picked out some stuff here that I would really like you to bookmark for later. Uh, Next thing, unusual whales. If you look up there, this pertains to my generation. Many of you in here, 48% of Gen X plan to work during their retirement years compared to 40% of all Americans. More than half, 56% of Gen X said they will likely need to work into retirement years due to financial need. Okay. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because I'm of that generation. Uh, I'm 46. I've been self employed. So I didn't pay too much into Social Security. Not that I'm depending on that, but I would like to work another 20 years, right? So even if I don't need to work, I still want to work, right? I don't think this is a bad thing, guys. I don't think retiring at 62 is very advantageous if you're a Gen Xer. And I think the boomers are the last generation that should retire. That they've paid into it the most, obviously, because they're older. They've been born since the advent of Social Security and entitlements. So if boomers want to retire at 62, I think they should. Um, because even though President Trump said he gets asked about this all the time, you notice that they always try and box him into talking about entitlements. Entitlements are Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Okay, the safety net you depend on as a retired person, basically. Okay, uh, I would encourage any boomer in here who has not uh, retired and collected Social Security to do so, because even though I don't think Trump is going to change anything right now, I do think eventually, guys, there's going to be a modification in those benefits, and it's going to affect my generation first because we're next in the queue. So people, I would say 45 to 58. Um, my theory is that you should plan on working past 62 years old, and that might not be for the bad because, as you know, if you take retirement at 62, you get less than if you can hold out to your 68. So they kind of dangle that carrot. That's what my father did. He didn't start. He was self-employed. He's 71 now. He's only been collecting 3 years because he didn't pay a lot into it. He didn't need it because he had an army pension, which superseded whatever he would have gotten from Social Security. So he didn't really want to touch that. My mom, on the other hand, stopped working at 62, so she doesn't get shit compared to what she if she had waited, but she really didn't want to work anymore. So uh and my dad was still working, so it wasn't really critical for them. 10 and 11 for her 10 and 11 years ago. So long story short, guys, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but my non-financial advice to you guys is, if you're in my age group, um maybe retire from your job, but don't put in for your Social Security benefit at 62. Try and live off of savings. Try and scrape for a few years. You're not going to need as much money in theory. I'm hoping by then your house is paid off, your cars are paid off, and you're not, you know, living large anymore. You shouldn't be at that age. You should be winding down. Something to think about. So that's up in the nest there. I thought that was interesting. A couple more things here, and then you guys can go to town here. Let me hit on politics really quick. I don't know if you saw the Michigan rally the other day to mark 100 days, but Scott Jennings from CNN, who is rapidly becoming the new Tucker Carlson uh, on cable news anyway. Tucker's long gone from cable, but he's from Kentucky. For those of you who don't know, where did he come from? Well, he used to be involved in Kentucky politics. I did a little homework on him. He worked in the Bush 43 White House briefly in like '06, '07. He worked for Mitch McConnell when he was running for Senate. Mitch McConnell, who's not running again. I'll get to that in a second. So you've got that. So he's kind of been in the political shadows, but they put him on TV because he's very good at what he does, as you've noticed. So anyway, he went to Michigan, and President Trump has really been pumping his tires hard. I heard a little rumor. that if Caroline Levitt did not want the White House press secretary job, if she wanted to, because she's got a young kid, if she wanted to basically be in the background communications director, not on the camera, just in the office at the White House, that Trump really wanted Scott Jennings to be the press secretary, which I found fascinating. This was during the transition time. So, anyway, Trump's a fan of him because he defends him against four liberals usually and the moderator on that dumbass low IQ show he's on with where it's like four retards and Scott. That's what the name of the show should be. But anyway, um, he may run for the Kentucky Senate next year because Mitch McConnell's retiring. And, Rand Paul yesterday, the other Kentucky senator, guys, he had this foolishness about trying to strip Trump of tariff powers is ridiculous. And don't even get me started on Massey. Here's one thing we as MAGA people, even though we don't live in Kentucky, need to kind of hone in on. We have a problem with Republicans in the state of Kentucky, Commonwealth of Kentucky. And it's not a little problem, guys. It's a huge problem. You've got Mitch McConnell. I don't even need to get into that. You've got Massey. I don't want to get into that, but you guys can trigger me very easily. You guys know I love bashing Massey and Rand Paul. So the three most prominent Republicans in the state of Kentucky are all basically anti-MAGA. Okay? And this is a red state. This is unacceptable. I know we get a lot of complaints about Texas, rightfully so. But Kentucky has a Texas problem, if you feel me. And this is something that needs to be corrected sooner rather than later. We can't let this linger. Okay, Trump got behind Daniel Cameron in the governor's race in I think it was 2022, and he got smoked by Andy Beshear, who was the Democrat incumbent. So we don't need an unknown state senator running from Kentucky. I don't care how MAGA they are. We need a guy like Scott Jennings, who, thanks to his new CNN contract, has tens of millions of dollars at his disposal if he chooses to use it, has household recognition, nationwide recognition, and is pretty much on the MAGA agenda. Trust me, guys, if that guy runs, he will be the next senator from Kentucky. We need some star power in the Senate, guys, because you remember how in the fall there were more Democrats that were up for re-election, and luckily we we didn't win as many as we should have. But anyway, there's more Republicans that are up for re-election in 2026. McConnell, of course, is stepping down. This makes it easier. Jennings probably won't be primaried by anybody, even the rhinos in that state, unless, if he runs, I guarantee you Thomas Massey won't run, although that would be interesting. So just keep an eye on that. Jennings has already said that if President Trump asks him to run, he will run. He has also said if somebody else decides to run, whoever Trump supports, he will get behind. Okay, so it's a win-win. So I just want you to keep that on your radar. I know we don't give a shit about the midterms right now, but this is important because this is a rising star in the Republican Party, and we need to capitalize on that. We can't have any more squishy people. He's all on board with deportations. He's all on board with the tariffs. He's all on board MAGA. I know he might have worked for Bush. He might have worked for McConnell. But I have to tell you something. Here's the pushback. He worked in the Bush White House in like 06, 07 as a younger guy. When you are an operative in Republican politics, guys, the best job you can get is working for the incumbent Republican president. I don't know if you realize that or not. So he didn't have the choice to work for like Donald Trump because Trump wasn't the president in 2006. Bush was. So, yeah, that's kind of a good thing on his resume. He's worked in the White House before in a behind the scenes role. If he's running for Senate, he worked on campaigns for the guy he's replacing. So he knows how a Senate race in the Commonwealth of Kentucky goes. So I don't understand the downside here, guys. I endorse Scott Jennings if he decides to run. It is critical we get some MAGA balls in Kentucky, guys, because, like I said, Kentucky has a Texas problem. They have a rhino problem, and it's called Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, and Thomas Massey. And the shit needs to stop, guy. It needs to stop yesterday. You've got Massey handicapping Trump in the House, making Mike Johnson's job way more difficult than it needs to be for a vanity project. You've got Rand Paul making John Thune and Rick Scott's job way harder than it needs to be in the Senate. Okay.
Got it up here yet, or oh, she? All right,
Yeah,
let
I
Janet
just got
go
it. Go ahead.
first. I got to run to my computer to lay out
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. No worries. Hey, Janet. Janet, you want to pop in? Stephanie's needs a minute. I see her up here. No? Okay. I'm going to keep going, guys. Let me just lay out. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. No worries. Let me just, while Stephanie's getting queued up here, let me just read you this really quick. I'm going to put this on my page and you guys could, if you want to read it later. So, CNN Scott Jennings mulling major career move, but is awaiting Trump's approval. It's from Yahoo News. Conservative CNN pundit Scott Jennings is mulling a run to replace retiring Kentucky's GOP Senator Mitch McConnell, but is waiting to see if Trump will give him the green light. If the president wants me, I'll run, the veteran political strategist spilled at an after party following Saturday's White House Correspondents' Dinner. If he wants somebody else, I'll support that candidate, added Jennings, a one time advisor to McConnell, who will retire next year after being the longest serving Senate leader of either party in the upper chamber's history. A well connected GOP operative told the Washington Post that Jennings' interest in running for Senate was, quote, certainly not fake. Jennings, 47, did not immediately respond to the Post request for comment. He's emerged as a popular commentator for his frequent appearances on CNN's Newsnight with Abby Phillip over the past year. His clashes with liberal pundits on the show and defenses of Trump administration policies have earned him gushing praise from the GOP and Democrats alike. Last month, Jennings received a big pay raise and a new contract at CNN, even though the network declined to let him headline his own show. He defends me all the time on CNN, and he defends me really well, but he can't go too far because he'll get fired, Trump said of Jennings at a campaign style rally in Warren, Michigan, Tuesday night to mark the president's 100th day in office. Uh, I think he relishes a role in challenging the overwhelmingly liberal audience, ex Obama advisor Van Jones told the Daily Caller, but he also understands television. The heel has to be more of a likable rascal than someone who's just perceived as utterly evil. He knows how to dance that dance. It's a rare gift. Okay. What does Trump say? Central casting. We need these sort of larger than life personalities, guys, to start running for the Senate because they're statewide races. They're very prominent. There's only 100 of them. You saw this, for those of you who think Dr. Oz crashed and burned against Fetterman in 2022, well, look where he ended up. He's now working in the White House. Okay, cleaning up what I was talking about earlier, Medicare, Medicaid, and all that. So that was not time spent in vain running for Senate, and Fetterman did not blow him out. And what was the key with Dr. Oz? He had a lot of his own money. Scott Jennings, you can't, the people that Trump wants to push, guys, particularly for governor's races or Senate races, they have to be self-financed because the MAGA person is not going to get money from the corrupt state level GOPs or Mike Johnson's doing a little better in that regard for the House races. I don't really trust John Thune to, you know, rally money up for people like Scott Jennings. Okay. How the hell is he going to do that? McConnell's going to endorse some rhino in Louisville that John Thune is going to have to get behind, at least, in the media. If Jennings runs, he won't even have to do that because there's no way that guy's going to is not going to get the nomination. So just a little food for thought. I'll leave that there. Stephanie, whenever you're ready, just jump in.
Okay, I'm ready. So we all know the claim that Democrats like to make. It's the Republicans are going to cut your Social Security and your Medicare. Now, mind you, so I did some research on this. This has been a talking point since the 1960s. And I literally have a fucking timeline, Gads, of like from the breakdown every time they make this claim by whether whoever had majority and it was president. I wish I could have this when the press conference for the Republicans are usually with the press in that room, and how like the Democrats like to have those boards like in the back of them. I would love to have this board at a press conference selling, oh really, this is like, and lay out the timeline. And also, since that every time they have a talking point, it also states that not one piece of legislation has ever been passed or put in where Republicans were looking to cut these two programs. This is a very crucial thing because now that they can still try to run on the abortion thing, but it's kind of like now it's left to the states. So this is one that they're always going to they're always going to use this. But I always say Republicans, I know know that they don't have the media like you were saying, because 90% is run by Democrats or have mainly like they have like all the networks. But it would just be so smart if they could, whether they have the messaging, but when they have that time period or they have the way to expose, like when they have the press in front of them, I would start doing stupid shit like they do. Like when they're not protesting, but have those billboards ready in the press room and putting much in black and white and showing, and like I said, like just like straight proof. Like Democrats usually have just like pictures and their bullshit talking points. These are actually like legit facts. And anybody can go back and do their fact check like they always like to do. But they suck at messaging. This is the Republicans' problem. They have great policy. They have horrible messaging. Trump is obviously a different story, but this is Trump's wheelhouse. Like he's been in the media, he knows how to run this shit, but he's not going to be in office after this. Like he's done. And who do we really going to have that's going to have a good message or knows how to get shit across? They got to start finding somebody. Doesn't have to be Trump, but just somebody that can articulate and just know how to put things in perspective, whether it's in a way of kind of trolling, but a more respectful manner, I guess you could say. But that's one. And we do need to start, I know you said it's kind of early to start, doing the campaigning for midterms, but you think Democrats are sleeping on this? You're out of your mind. You are out of your, trust me, they're probably trying to find ways to even cheat if they got to. Okay. The Senate, I don't, there might be two or three seats we might have to worry about because there is a little bit more. But and the fact that the Republicans are like slacking right now, just with passing these bills and trying to get on board. I don't really have too much against Rand Paul. I mean, I'm a little aggravated with him with this one thing with the tariffs.
I do.
I know. Well, I know you do. Nasty's been getting on my nerves, but it's Kentucky. I don't know. I mean, it's not my state, but there's a lot of Republicans, Gads, whether from the Senate or the House, that need to go. I mean, here in New York, we got a lot of fucking rhinos. Um, it's just if we're gonna primary people, you have to just get common sense people. I don't look at the whole DNR. As somebody who comes from New York and was a registered Democrat, I'm more of an independent, and I just look at the policy. I mean, We just need to find more common sense people. Like, to be honest with you, if fucking what is it, Harris from how is it, Harold Ford from fucking Fox News at 5 ran for governor in New York, I would choose him probably over any other Democrat, even like some depending on the Republican, because he's more of a common sense person. He's not that fucking bad. But I just the messaging has to be better, and you have to just start bringing like legit stuff to counter them, because especially the shit that they're doing. They're just doing retarded circus show like stuff right now, and even their own voters are not happy with them. So I just wanted to touch on that. And as for Ukraine and Russia, I just really don't give a shit. I really don't. Only thing I say is just stop the funding. Like if Zelensky was just going to, pull his shit. Somebody mentioned it last night in this space that, Zelensky scrolled off his election. And I think he's more worried about not being reelected. And, once the election is held, um, I wouldn't give a shit if Russia just took him. I really don't really give a shit. I'm worried about my country, and that's it, and the people here. So, I'm sure most people in the space is, but I don't know. I just wanted to throw some of the stuff out there regarding the usual talking points.
Not bad, Stephanie. Not bad at all. I generally agree with you. Especially with Ukraine, it's the money stopped. That's for sure. He's not getting any more money. Right now, he's got a $350 billion deficit with the United States right now, and like I said, we're never going to recoup that money. But we've made a start with this deal, and what this minerals deal does is kind of box out Russia. So remember what Trump said on the campaign trail about, because he's asked about it all the time. He volunteered it actually more than he was asked about it. Whoever makes concessions will get the better part of the deal in regards to Russia and Ukraine. So, and he's a man of his word. This is not good news for Moscow, because two things: they don't want Ukraine. I'm neutral. I don't really care. I just want it to be over. I was never on picking anybody. But anyway, Ukraine, because they're at a disadvantage, and like he said when he was yelling at Zelensky, you don't have any cards to play. Well, this is true. But if he gets a ceasefire for 30 days, which I think is the next step in this, there's still no ceasefire. This minerals deal has nothing to do with killing. Make no mistake. This is us securing our 350 billion that Biden stupidly gave them. You see, friends, this doesn't stop bloodshed. The reason I'm celebrating it is because that's maybe, just maybe, we'll get a fraction of the money that that Biden stole from us to give to that retard. So who didn't know what he was doing? That's Zelensky. All right. So Trump is being consistent. You might dislike everybody's so impatient. I know you might dislike the pace of the administration, but he's not doing or saying anything or putting into practice anything that was not said the last 4 years he was out of office. So you can't drag the guy for being inconsistent, even with tariffs. I'll get into that later. So let me just dot the i's and cross the t's on the minerals deal. Guy, in 2 seconds here. Don't shoot the messenger. This is a good article I found on it this morning. It's from BBC. Uh, so here's just the finer points. So you guys know you just keeping your blade sharp by knowing exactly what the breakdown of this is. So the deal aims to provide an economic incentive for the U.S. to continue to invest in Ukraine's defense and reconstruction, as well as to address Washington's concerns over the amount of aid that has already been contributed, 350 billion. So that's a lot, guys. Okay, it's a staggering amount of money that, again, we didn't have in the first place. Secretary Bessent said it showed both sides were committed to lasting peace and prosperity in the Ukraine. In the Ukraine, the deal will also see the establishment of an investment fund to spur Ukraine's economic recovery from the war. Let's see what else here. No state or person who financed or supplied the Russian war machine will be allowed to benefit from the reconstruction of Ukraine. That is from Bessent. So yeah, this is kind of shanking Putin a little bit. in the prison mess line. All right, make no mistake, Putin is not fucking happy this morning. Okay, uh, I'm just making sure there's nothing else here I didn't cover. So here are some of the critical mineral deposits. Uh, the rare earths are in that eastern sector, Donetsk region. I'm sorry. Yeah, rare earths are there. The graphite is in the west, over by Belarus, so kind of out of harm's way of the war. And the titanium and zirconium are kind of down the middle of the country. Just to give you, if you visualize the map of Ukraine in your head, that's the layout. Okay, so that's where we're at with them. Uh, just making an omelet here, guys, before I go to work. Bear with me. I'm just putting my peppers in there. So as I'm talking to you, the other thing is this. How I said this doesn't stop the bloodshed. This is at least going to get Russia maybe to return a phone call or to make a concession. The best capital that Putin has right now is to agree to a 30-day ceasefire. I got to tell you guys, that missile attack, that was fucking bullshit. Well, under the guise of the Pope being buried, because all the global leaders were there. People weren't focused on foreign policy for a day or two when the Vatican was filled with all the globalists and stuff. I think that really pissed Trump off. And so he talked, and I think he knew about that missile strike when he was talking to Zelensky there in that semi-private meeting in the Vatican. So uh, again, I don't care who you think is in the right or wrong. As it stands so far, Russia has not really shown themselves to be serious about a peace deal. I can understand that because I mean they have hatred for Zelensky and Ukraine, and I understand that. I do, but we're trying to stop the killing, so egos have to be in check. Blood feuds have to be. It's easy for me to say, I know, but I'm not talking about it as a Russian or a Ukrainian. I'm talking about it as an American. Um, so sorry if you are big into Russia or you think that they're very righteous in what they're doing. There is no winner in this, guys. Whether you think Putin was justified or because I got to tell you one thing: if he keeps up this shit, he's going to get nothing. So, and he shouldn't, because we're talking peace. We're not talking. Well, Ukraine did this, and Zelensky did that, and you notice how the narrative is being not really the narrative, but people are being reminded Crimea was annexed in part at first under Obama's second term. I think it was 2014, 2015. Okay, so I know Zelensky wasn't president then, but if you're mad at Ukraine, what was it, Poroshenko, whoever the former president was before, that's really the guy who's at the root cause of all of this, Obama and Poroshenko. Okay, I really despise Zelensky. Okay, but his country was conducting horrendous foreign policy, and they were in bed with NATO long before he got into office. Now he made matters very demonstrably worse, but that's at this point everybody wants to blame. It's this person's fault. It's Ukraine's fault. Guys, now that we're in peace mode, you kind of have to let that shit go. You really do, because it's counterproductive, and B, we're not Russian or Ukrainian. I have to keep reminding my fellow Americans of that. You shouldn't be cheerleading for either side. Both of these countries have committed atrocities toward the other. Okay, the killing is despicable. Like, fine, okay, you don't like Ukraine. That's great. For every Russian prisoner that was tortured, trust me, there's been more Ukrainians killed than Russians in this war. There's no shortage of blood. Okay, let's stop cheering the carnage. Okay, you could hate Zelensky and not want his people to. They're not asked to be in that war. They're basically taken out of their homes and sent to the front line. Okay, there's a lot of Ukrainians that don't hate Russia, guys. So anyway, I've said enough about it. Uh, there's the situation with Ukraine. Quickly, but then we're gonna pivot into tariffs. You guys grab a mic. Okay, I'm done setting the table. I want to hear from you guys. Uh, so it was breaking last night. Back to Vicent, the MVP. He wants to do the China negotiation on the tariffs, specifically just him. So we'll see how that goes. So U.S. wants to start tariff talks with China. State media says, okay, this is Chinese state media, so it's propaganda. But anyway, um, honestly, I'm looking at this. It's also from Yahoo News, guys. I don't see any reason to doubt this. The U.S. has approached China seeking talks over President Trump's 145% tariffs. A social media account affiliated with Chinese state media said on Thursday. That was while we were all sleeping last night. Remember the 12 hours ahead. Potentially signaling Beijing's openness to negotiations. Uh, the U.S. has proactively reached out to China through multiple channels, hoping to hold discussions on the tariff issue. Yuan Tanchian said in a post published on the official Weibo social media account, citing anonymous sources. Okay. Now, for those of you who don't know, I talked about this Tuesday, I think. That was the last space he did Tuesday. China has actually exempted uh, a few U.S. products from their retaliatory 125% tariffs, and that includes pharmaceuticals, microchips, and jet engines. Uh, Ethane, that's ethane, which is like a liquid gas, right? Um, which all the cheap Chinese shit you buy on Amazon is made out of ultimately, in part. That's one of the raw materials. 50% of the ethane that the United States exports, it's one of our big things. I didn't even know about this till recently. 50% of the ethane we export goes to China specifically. So they can't make that stuff in Walmart and on Amazon without the ethane that we sell to them. So they haven't counter tariffed that because they're having a hard enough time keeping their factories open. I don't know if you've seen the something like 10 million Chinese are out of work right now temporarily, is my understanding. So that's again something worth monitoring if you're interested. These are moves and counter moves of this tariff war. So I think that's significant. I don't think we should ignore that. That's a big issue, guys. And Bissett is also saying, do I have it up in the nest? Yeah. U.S. will hold China to agreements they previously signed. Okay, what does that mean? You remember Trump's first term, January 15th, 2020. We know what happened then. They were supposed to sign the first trade agreement in which they would be paying tariffs and not stealing intellectual property, yada, yada, yada. You remember that, right? What happened January 23rd, 2020? The first Chinese national tested COVID positive at I think it was either Seattle or Portland, Oregon airport. And the rest is history. So they never fucking owned up to that agreement. Uh, and Trump hasn't forgotten about that. Trust me, he's been uh, chewing glass over that the last 4 years he was out of office. So China did not honor their commitment. Instead, they used excuses. They used COVID. Well, COVID's over, so now we're going back to these duties and tariffs that you owe Beijing. How do you like that fucking arrangement? Trust me, nobody. You guys think that the Democrats and MS-13 and what have you were the most disappointed Trump got reelected? No, it was China. The most underreported story of the election was how upset, how devastated China is that Trump got reelected. Because if Kamala got in, do you think she would enforce any of this shit? Hell no, right? Obvious stuff here. So I would ask all of you to remember that as you're navigating through the news, that Ukraine's got a debt to us, which we took step one in getting some form of compensation on, and China owes us a whole lot more. So we had some good news with the minerals deal. We had some good news. It looks like we have some good news down the pike with India possibly signing a standalone trade agreement, maybe South Korea. All of these things are positive, guys. I can't emphasize this enough. For people saying, Trump hasn't done anything, or everybody's frustrated with deportations. Everybody's frustrated with uh, the stuff. Bobby Kennedy's moving too slow. Everybody's moving too slow. Not for me. How do you unfuck 4 years of disaster, guys? It's not going to happen in 100 days. So this is what I was worried about. Again, MAGA is very susceptible to Pravda, and they're very susceptible to being impulsive because they have no patience. And I say that with love and respect, but I've seen the tweets of many of you. You're very impatient people, and I understand that. You've suffered. Many of you have lost your jobs over mandates. Many of you have sons and daughters in the military that had to get out because of mandates or because you just didn't want Joe Biden being the commander in chief. I get all that. But, you know, the best thing I could be is honest with you all. And because I don't open these spaces to lie to you. And maybe it's better coming from a friendly voice than some prick on cable news, right? Some rhino journalist or or some MAGA influencer on here who's a patriot, PAYTRIOT. Okay, but I have no skin in the game other than I love my country, guys, and I'm telling you, uh, if I get invited to talk in these bigger spaces, whether it's diligent or if once in a while they will throw me a microphone, I'm gonna, I don't care if it's people that you guys like. I'm gonna start calling these people out because they're not being serious. They don't have realistic expectations of changing this country. Okay. And so anybody who's impulsive and complaining about Pam Bondi, I don't want to hear it. So you can call me a MAGA shill. I don't give a shit. But here's the difference. I've seen all these people and their predictions, and they've been wrong more than they've been right. Doesn't mean I don't like them. Doesn't mean I don't respect them. But they have no what's the word? They can't forecast politics. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but my batting average I think is a lot higher than these other people. Okay. So what I understand economics a little bit. I think I'm starting to understand politics a little more in terms of, like I said, moves and counter moves, and why Trump is doing what he's doing, and why he's not doing things quote unquote fast enough for people. I, you got to understand the complexities of what we're up against. It's fine to be passionate, and it's fine to be, in the mindset of wanting to make America great again. I don't know how you could host your own spaces for 4 years. How you can be actively involved in the campaign, in Trump's reelection campaign, in other major, Senate races or governor races or whatever over the last four, and think that in 100 days that this guy was going to fix everything. Guys, you have absolutely no idea. But you do. But I'm saying for the doubters out there, for the haters out there, do you understand that we have about an $8 trillion investment now into this country? 8 trillion with a T in 100 days. That's not doing anything. I'm looking at this big picture, guys. We're getting set up for an economic boom in about a year here. And you're going to start seeing the fruits of that labor, in my opinion, by Labor Day. What's significant about Labor Day? Q3 of 2025. So, yeah, uh, I have a feeling at the end of the summer, I want to host a lot of spaces on here, and I want all you commenting on how well your fucking retirement, your 401k is doing, how you have more money in your pocket, how you're not spending $600 at Costco, you're only spending 300 now, etc. That you got a good deal on a car. I want to hear all. I have a feeling I'm going to be hearing a lot of stories like this, like mid-September, and I can't wait for that because I want you all to do good in your personal life. I want you all to have all the money you need or want, and you're going to get there. But it's not going to happen in 100 days. So don't be an impulsive MAGA person. It's a very toxic place to be, in my opinion. Okay. What else we got? What else we got? Anybody grab a mic, guys? I'd like to go a little while longer. I don't want to just talk at you. I want to talk with you. Does anybody have anything to add? There's no shortage of things to talk about 100 days in. I picked a few specific things, but I might be missing something. You guys are crazy. You just want me to keep talking, I swear. Well, it's it's your sanity, not mine. You want to sit here and listen to me, no problem. I could do this all day and all night. Next, the market. Okay. Speaking of toxic, how many of you could raise your hand if you want, or just throw me an emoji. How many of you are in a toxic relationship with the stock market right now? How many? Probably a lot of yous, right? I can understand why. But we got some new speakers, so this will give me a break here. I'm going to pick it up. You guys, Apothecary Patrick, you talk about whatever you'd like. I'm going to pick it up with the stock market after everybody gets to say their piece. So, Apothecary, good morning. You can go, and then Patrick, just jump right in after.
Good morning, Gadsden. Interesting as always to hear your take on things, and I appreciate you opening this space this morning. I hope your omelet is good. Um,
Yep.
I just kind of got a little Maha update, 100 days in. So we had kind of I'm sure it's across everybody's feed yesterday that RFK Jr. revealed that these 300,000 children that have gone missing in this country over the past 4 years under the Biden administration, that he has found that these are I don't know, Department of Human Services somehow is partially responsible for their disappearance. And he says that he has put a stop to that, but now they have to find the 300,000 kids, and he's gonna sick his group or get somebody out there to help find these kids. You know, I have really avoided this topic, the missing children and the sex trafficking topic. I've got enough to worry about with all of the health stuff that's been going on with COVID and the vaccines and everything in general, and just raising people's awareness that, yeah, we're being poisoned. We've been being poisoned for decades. Okay. I stay in my lane. Yes, I do listen in and stuff, but I haven't gotten involved in it. It was not on my bingo card that DHS would somehow be involved in the sex trafficking. So I'm a little blown away by this, still trying to wrap my head around it. He's got enough to worry about without, having to mess with that. But here we are. So I'm very heartened to know that he has brought this to awareness. And when I look back on it and think, okay, what was going on for the past 4 years? Yeah, the border crossings, but it was Xavier Becerra was in charge of DHS during those 4 years. And, we know that there was a lot of other weirdos in charge of different departments. All you had to do is look at their pictures going, what the heck is this in charge of our country right now? And I scratched my head going, okay, how many perverts did we have involved in the running of our country last term? Xavier Becerra looks fairly normal. Who is he? Well, the 4 years prior to his being in charge of DHS, he was actually Attorney General of California. Um, so that's a little bit interesting, especially right now. California trying to decriminalize the sex trafficking of 16-year-olds. The years before that, I think it started in 1997 up until 2021. Or no, I'm sorry, up until, oh, I'm getting the dates all screwed up. It's too early for me. But prior to being AG of California, he was actually in Congress So this guy's not a stranger to politics, the way that RFK Jr. hasn't really been involved in politics. But I don't know that Becerra ever did anything. He was an attorney, of course, but didn't really do anything to help America that I could see. The way that RFK Jr. took on, sued, and won the lawsuits against FDA, EPA, General Electric, Monsanto, et cetera, to help kind of clean things up here and there as best he could as an attorney winning lawsuits. So that's kind of just the news that I'm still trying to wrap my head around is, where are the 300,000 children and why is RFK Jr. having to get involved in this as Secretary of DHS? And then, the question, I was talking offline just with a friend on the phone last night about this, and the question came up, why DHS? Why would DHS, be involved in this sex trafficking thing?
Apothecary,
And
do you mean HHS,
I'm
Health and
so
Human
sorry.
Service?
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
Sorry. Department of
it's okay.
Health and
Yep.
Human Service, HHS. Yes. Again, I'm tongue tied this morning. Still on my second cup of coffee. I'll get there. Why is HHS involved in sex trafficking? How did that happen? Why wouldn't it be some other department if that's what's going on, perversely behind the scenes? And it's so easy though. Here come all these kids that, oh dear, well, we have to take care of the children. Let us take them and check on their health. Let us take them and make sure that they're vaccinated and get them some well baby checks or whatever else is going on through, the Catholic charities. To me, it's like it's easy to grab a kid when you're, doing it under the guise of let's make sure our little child is healthy. So I don't know. The whole thing is so slimy. I just can't even stomach it. But here we are. Anyway, there's that. And I could go back over uh, RFK Jr.'s last 100 days and the progress he's made, but most of it is not necessarily we got this done. Most of it is we've brought awareness to this. We have uncovered that. We are planning to do this. A lot of these things are very time consuming. These are very tight knots that have been in place and have been just tightened over the past few decades. And to get this stuff unraveled is going to take a minute, especially if we're looking at any kind of criminal behavior. He is very well versed at making sure he's got an airtight, solid, waterproof, airproof case before he presents a case in court. And that's why he wins. So I know that it's frustrating. No one's more frustrated than me. I've been looking at this for decades. I want to get it done. This is our best chance. We have a limited time frame, what, 4 years, hopefully 2 years, but he's got to have everything in place or it will not stick in court or after this 4 year term if someone else gets in office that's just as slimy as the last 4 years. So that's where I'm at with it. Just my little update, and thank you for indulging me and allowing me my mistake, DHS versus
Oh,
HHS.
you're
Thanks,
no
guys.
problem at all. No problem at all. Because that's a big. I knew what you meant. I just I wanted to make sure everybody got that because DHS is their investigations and their oversight. That's quite normal dealing with, sadly, with the amount of trafficked children. But Health and Human Services, where RFK is a secretary of, is a whole other situation, which is like Apothecary said, that is quite concerning. My jaw dropped. I didn't hear his bit live. I heard the other secretaries go, and then I was busy at work and stuff. I rewatched the end of that. It was a 2 hour meeting, cabinet meeting. Those things are awesome, by the way. And when he said that, I was like, what the fuck? So yeah, the plot thickens, guys, for all the wrong reasons. So we should, uh, again, not give in to being impatient. Um, understand the complexity of this. Understand that all the problems that Trump was talking about on the campaign trail that he needs to fix, you were only scratching the surface. Okay, when you've got Health and Human Services under Biden, Secretary was Javier Becerra, the AG of California. Geez, California is not a corrupt border state, is it? Yeah, right. So uh, that's the other thing is too. I think we're on a need to know basis with many of these things, and we're getting little bits and pieces of other problems. And like, holy shit, this is another thing we have to work on. we have to fix, and we need to get to the root cause of everything. So, Patrick, go ahead. Thanks, Apothecary.
Hey, can I jump in real quick, Patrick? I'm sorry, just indulge me one more second. You know, um, Kennedy mentioned specifically sex trafficking and slavery with regard to these disappearing kids. Knowing what I know, and just on the medical side, on the health side, I also suspect that there is some organ harvesting involved with this as well, which just makes me want to vomit everywhere. But I think that it might have been intentional that he omitted that. I'm sure he's aware of it as well.
Crazy. God help us all. Thanks, Apothecary. Patrick, what's up?
Hey, sorry, I only have a second here, but I did want to jump in on the. I don't know if anyone saw the polling crap out of what's his name, Luntz, the dunce, where I can't remember what station it was on. I have just looking at the tweet here. They were saying it's this. He did a long segment on Squawk Box about voters on the right, left, and middle, first 100 days, and I just sorry, I'm trying to get ready to walk out the door here, but essentially it was about all the lefties, are not happy, and and I've talked to people within that actually work within government or within government or with the government organizations here in town, and they're all very upset over the poor government people that this is their lives, and the way they're going about it, and they don't have to be so harsh about firing people and blah 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 blah. It just goes fucking on, and it's like, well, where were you the last 40 years? All these people lost their jobs over in coal country and manufacturing, and it just pisses me off, right? So you hear Luntz go on Squawk Box, and he's talking about this poll, which I think he's full of shit, to be honest with you, or at least by omission. Okay, I think he's saying, well, you've got problems with all these people that are emotional over it, and Musk and the Doge and the and it's their methods. Okay, this is all they have to complain about because there's no substance beneath what they're saying, right? I know James R and others have talked about this on Spaces about just in general the polling, and that there's the far right is happy as a clam, and we agree with if you look at Frank Luntz's clip, right? Yes, far right's happy as a clam, but there's this segment of people in the middle. Now, the left wing media help make you think, oh, Trump's doing terrible. He can't, his vote numbers are down and blah blah blah, right? It's But that's where I think the fallacy comes in, is that those people are going to bitch anyways, right? They were going to be upset anyways, no matter what happened, because you can't please them. And I think that's the group you're talking about, Gads, where they're impatient and they're complaining about this. And I think that's just how they are. And so that might turn up in a poll that they're just satisfied because Pam Bondi's on TV too much, which, yeah, is a little irritating, but it's not like I'm going to give them an F grade when we aren't even a tenth through the marking period, right? So anyways, I just wanted to complain myself about Frank Luntz and these polls and kind of this omission where they try to paint this stupid picture about something that I believe is not real. It's not true in the sense of how they're framing it. Like, the data's there. Yeah, the data's probably somewhat accurate, but the picture they're painting with it is not.
Patrick, I'm glad you brought up the polling. You guys know I like greasy ones in particular. Those are the ones I like to do on here. But Frank Luntz, I think, is doing polling for CNN, even though he has his own thing. He's the guy with the terrible wig, and he dyes his beard to match the wig. It looks terrible. But I know exactly what you mean. By the way, Patrick, on that note, I'm going to dissect and analyze your point. I agreed with all of it. Stephen Miller called out Fox News's polling yesterday or the day before when he was being interviewed by John Roberts. I did see that segment. I think President Trump talked about it too on Truth Social. There is a problem right now with the cable news polling. You expect it on CNN and MSNBC, but Fox News as well, guys. They have a real problem with their internal pollsters because they're not accurate. And like Patrick's saying, this is all they have right now. I saw a poll. It was released by Fox that 37% of Hispanics that voted for Trump in November. I'm sorry, he only had a 37% approval rating with Hispanics that voted for him in November. Now, think about that. That's less than that's basically 3.5 out of every 10 Hispanic MAGA voters are now unhappy with President Trump in regards to, because what was the question they were asking Hispanics about? Deportations and the border. Okay, so you're telling me that the Mexican Americans in El Paso or the Cuban Americans in Miami are upset that MS-13 and Tren de Aragua are out of their neighborhoods and their barrios. Are you fucking kidding me? How can they be? They're the ones that get affected. But where do you think these? I know, like Lake and Riley, that was a college town, tragically in Georgia. But where do you think they go? Like, the Venezuelans aren't going up to North Dakota, where it's a 98% white state, okay, to commit atrocities. They have to hide in Latin communities. Okay, that's where they start. That's where the networks are. That's where the infrastructure for the gang warfare is. They don't go to Bismarck, North Dakota, if you're an MS-13. Okay, with fucking tattoos all over your face, where you're amongst a bunch of cowboys, where everybody's carrying a gun. Okay, they go to defenseless Hispanic farming communities, or Latin ghettos in places like Miami, and they blend in because they're crime infested areas, or economically depreciated areas, right? Where everybody speaks Spanish. Again, why would a gangbanger from El Salvador go to North Dakota where nobody speaks Spanish? Okay, you go to Miami, chances are there's going to be 1,000 other Hispanic guys covered in tattoos that aren't in gangs. That's how you blend in. That's how you decide, okay, what am I going to do first? Who am I going to murder first? Who am I going to rape? That's how these animals think, guys. So, and Fox News ran with that polling. And I can't even believe John Roberts, who's one of the few non-low IQ reporters on that network in the daytime, would ask Stephen Miller, of all people, about that. I mean, that's just not even a fair fight. So this is what I'm getting at, my friends. There is no polling, substantive polling, out of cable news that is going to say that MAGA is unhappy with Elon Musk and Doge is unhappy with what Christy Nome is doing. And Patrick brought up Pam Bondi. I know this is a sore spot for many of you. You're not going to like what I have to say. We went from having, under Biden, the most corrupt, the most unconstitutional, the most evil, and oh, by the way, the most non-visible, non-transparent attorney general, maybe in the history of the country, Merrick Garland. For all of you that were correctly, I agree with you, by the way, that were correctly supporting like J6 people who were being persecuted under Merrick Garland. The guy had no accountability. He didn't even go on fucking CNN with Wolf Blitzer. Now we have somebody who's on Fox News, which I know it's like you guys don't watch it, but she's out there talking to MAGA people, giving updates. Now we have somebody. First, we have somebody who you hate that throws J6 people in jail without due process, which I think is evil. Okay, who was not accountable to anything he did not enforce the law, allowed the border to be open. You hated that guy, and now you hate this chick who's on Fox News 3 times a week. So you went from having the most invisible attorney general to the most visible, and you're complaining about it. I don't understand. A lot of times, I just don't understand some of you, and I don't know if it's my place to fully understand you, because you're a free thinking human being, and it's not my business to get into your head.
There's
But I'm
no
just
there's no pleasing them.
it's just insane. This is next level. Like I feel like
Smoking a pancake?
no, Patrick. I think we need to make lithium great again. And the first place we need to do is give it to people in MAGA. Forget the Democrats; they're beyond help. I mean, it's either that guys or shock therapy. You decide. You think these people have such easy jobs? Oh, I'm attorney general. I could just drop the Epstein files out. Oh yeah, because CNN is going to roll with that at 8 p.m. in prime time. You know, Rachel Maddow, she's going to start her show by naming all these New York socialites whose names you don't even fucking know. I don't care about releasing the names. You know what I care about? That any of those monsters, guys, that abuse children on that island allegedly, I hope they get hit by a fucking bus. That's the justice I want, or a train. Maybe the number 7 train out of Brooklyn. Okay, that's justice because you can't. They've already destroyed these children forever. You're never going to get back what they took away, the innocence they took, that these animals took from these children. But you want to know their name. Okay, John Smith. He went on the Epstein flight on November 13th, 2013. Great. You have John Smith's name. He's an attorney in Manhattan, Democrat donor. Awesome. What are you going to do with it, guys? You going to go to his house? Like, okay, great. You have that information. It'd be better if John Smith, who may have abused children on Epstein's Island, what if he gets into an accident one day at a crosswalk in Manhattan, in Midtown? A very unfortunate accident. I'm just asking you guys to understand what you're upset about and why you're upset, and better yet, why are you upset about it? Okay, 2 questions I have for you. All right, we'll go Stephanie, Janet, and I got Thread up too. So Stephanie, go ahead.
So one, yeah, I don't trust the polling. Look what that whole thing with the Iowa when that lady was doing polling and that turned out to be bullshit. And the fact of the matter, how many people we're voting in this country, technically registered voters, I'm going to give the estimate, maybe let's say 360 million. Oh, but the polling usually does approximately 1,500. Yeah, let's take a fucking polling with max 1,500 people, allegedly, that's mix of voters. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. And let's see, ABC poll, you got the CBS, and I was actually surprised with the YouGov because YouGov's usually the most liberal, and the YouGov one had a more balanced polling on that, which was I thought was surprising because, like I said, it's more liberal. But listen, stay. Just don't even look at the polls. And the Fox polling, I think it was, yeah, you said John Roberts, and usually Brett Baer runs them over again. I have to say, Todd Pyro, he's on early in the morning, like 5 a.m. I love Todd Pyro. He actually called the same thing you just did out regarding the percentage breakdown. He called it out. So there are some people yet still at Fox that will call the bullshit out. You're going to have your Brett Baer, your Shannon Bream, and the basic ones that try to go by the guidelines instead of just doing what the average American just wants to they want to hear real, like, truth. Just don't give the bullshit talking points like a politician. So you're going to have that. But it's funny, you have Jesse Waters, who does Johnny on the Streets in New York City, by the way, asking people who voted how Trump is doing. And these are New York City people. And I think there was 2 people out of the entire interviews that they did that disagree with Donald Trump, yet majority of the New Yorkers were agreeing with him. So answer me that one. Then they do this at least once a week in New York. So I don't believe the pollings. I never have. I mean, you go back from 2016 and you got your media bias and all the bullshit. And like you said before, you're going to have your people with the straight TDS, which most of us know, and our favorite guy, Cliff, we love him, but it's like I said, you can't flip him. I love him. I prefer not to even try to, go. I mean, I try to throw things out there, but you're never going to prove your point to somebody who just doesn't like the man. Take away the policy and the things. He refuses to overlook the person. That's just how it is.
Yeah, some people waste too much time with that guy, Stephanie. Not to throw shade, but I mean, I don't even understand the point of engaging. I mean, this demo, like you just nailed it. Like when you hate the person more than you want to see the country do good. I don't know if trying to explain, give this guy a remedial MAGA course is really worth people's time at this point. It's just, we have a country you could, you got to decide. I say the same thing to MAGA people. Are you in and out with this guy? I said it during the campaign. Some people were dipping their toe in the DeSantis well a couple of years ago, and they might have straight up blocked me because they haven't seen him in a while. But I know they're still active in spaces. You either got to decide whether you're in or out with Trump and his agenda. You know what you're getting. You might get a little more and be pleasantly surprised. I've made a decision a long time ago. I'm in, and if partisan Democrats don't want to be in, or people that are butthurt over how he handled the pandemic don't want to be on board anymore, or people that have a hair across their ass about, that we're not deporting 1 million people by lunchtime, I'm going to allow them to chillax in their bad energy, and I'm going to move forward. That's what I'm going to do. Good stuff, Stephanie. Good stuff. Janet, what's up?
Can I just throw something else on that? So, Gads, like you said before, I mean, if, like I said, if shit comes out, like shit that we already kind of know, it's great, wonderful. If accountability happens, wonderful. I'm not dwelling on it, but one thing is, everybody's like, "Oh, the list." Okay, you're gonna get a list of fucking names. You already have a couple list of names that were there already from testimony. So let's just let's think about it. Start throwing names out there, and oh, so what? They could flee the country. That's one before accountability could happen. But if you're doing a thorough investigation and you have to, like I said, take the files, and you want to have, like she was just saying, corrupt judges, and you want to take this to court, and you have to bring some of the, now they're saying there was like over 250 victims, maybe a couple down. But what irks me is, if you have this many victims, and I understand maybe they're afraid, but they should be, Pam Bondi should, one, maybe bring them all together and show that there should be no fear, and they should stick together. And if they have to get some private security, I would start as victims. Not let them fucking start throwing the names out if that's the case. That's one. But you're not going to get somebody, like I said, if you have to do an investigation and just throw fucking Bill Clinton there and say, oh, he raped this girl and that girl. Okay, well, it's out there. Well, what are we as a people? We can't fucking put him in jail. We're going to go put a bullet to his head so then you go to jail? No. So, like I said, do we want this to come out? Do we want this to be solved? And do we want people to get accountability and justice? 100%. But if it ain't fucking you, feeding you, or paying your bills, I'm sorry, guys, you're going to have to just wait.
Yeah. Yeah. 4 years of Biden. And then on top of that, a decade or more of Epstein Island trips. And in 100 days, they're all going to be behind bars. Guys, when that list is released, I guarantee you, for every Hollywood actor on there, there's or Alan Dershowitz or whoever, there's gonna be 40 some odd names of people you have no fucking idea who they are. And if they're a bunch of dirty, disgusting old men, hopefully half of them are dead. So I agree that it needs to be made public, but here's the thing: unless you can give the innocence back to those children that are scarred for life, unless you have the gift of, you know, making them whole again, which is as sadly we've all either known personally victims of sexual abuse or just mental abuse from even their own parents in life. Good luck with that. So unless that can be given to these children, I would say, what is your solution? Okay, they're in jail. Epstein was in jail. Look what happened to him. So the kingpin, you know. Uh, I don't know, guys. I have a 1A and 1B question. What are you going to do with those names once they're public? Are you going to do a deep dive? Guys, they're all going to lead to the same place. Democrat donor from states like New York or from Washington, D.C., maybe Palm Beach, Florida area. They're all going to fit the same demographic. There's going to be no HVAC technicians from Bloomington, Indiana on that list. There's going to be no cattle ranchers from Oklahoma on that list. There's going to be nobody you'd see in a red hat and a flannel shirt at a MAGA rally on that list. It's going to be all elites, probably a lot of attorneys, a lot of people in the Democrat political sphere of Washington and New York City and Palm Beach, Florida. I guess what I'm saying is there's not going to be any surprises on there, you know? So I don't know. You guys tell me. Those of you that are critics of my viewpoint, you have all the answers, and I know nothing. So this is your chance to tell me where I'm wrong or what I'm missing, because the difference of opinion is very valuable. Yeah, and I need that, like we all do. Threat, go ahead, man. Then I'm gonna hit the stock market before we close this. Go ahead, Threat.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Well, Janet stole all my thunder. So she said just about verbatim what I was going to say. So I completely agree with what she was saying. And I would just, I guess, riding on those coattails would say, from a patient standpoint, because patience is certainly not my strong point, and I have to beat myself down daily sometimes about it. People have to remember, like, think of how long it takes for to put together a case against a mobster or put together a case against somebody accused of murder. Like, these cases can take months and oftentimes years, depending on the complexity. I mean, did Rudy Giuliani take down the mob in a couple of months? No, that took years, right? Now think of the scope of, the deep state cabal. It's a global network of just corruption. So it's infinitely more complex. And to think that Pam Bondi or Kash Patel or any of those folks were going to walk into office and the next day round them all up and throw them in prison is just, it's laughable. I laugh at myself for my own impatience for being so stupid. Like, this is going to take years. It's not going to take weeks or months. And we'll start to see things, happening. But it's not all going to happen at once. It can't. And if and to the Epstein list, I look at it the same way. If many of the names that we suspect are involved in that are actually involved in that, think of the disruption to our entire economy and social order, that if you just rounded them all up all at once and threw them in prison. I mean, some of these people probably hold very high office. Some of these people hold very high positions in very major corporations. You start seeing CEOs of Fortune 100 companies getting arrested because they're, perverts. What happens to the company stocks, at least temporarily? So there's all of these uh, unintended consequences for enacting justice on these people that Trump administration has to walk very carefully. And to Janet's point, we don't currently have a justice system that can be trusted to properly, adjudicate these cases. So you got to clean up the justice system to ensure that these people get a fair and proper trial from the perspective of justice, and not just get some made up loophole where they get let free because somebody didn't dot an I or cross a T on a warrant. So anyways, just for all those big accounts on X that daily are bashing Pam Bondi because she's on Fox News, I think that's also ridiculous. I want Pam Bondi on Fox News every day, listing what's going on, what happened today, what accomplishments were made. She's not the one that's conducting the investigation. So the fact that she's on the media, that's her job. Her job is she is the representative of the DOJ, and she is the voice of the president to the public, to keep the public informed of what's going on as much as she is able to keep them informed.
Fred, who's telling her to go on there? Her boss, Trump.
Exactly.
Right. So she's the one, he's saying get booked on, go on Hannity. That's a safe space for us. We could, and the other thing is too, she's the head, she's, the chief LEO of the country. And I think a lot of people think that Pam Bondi works in an office with a laptop and her cell phone, and that's the Department of Justice. There are thousands of attorneys and personnel in that office. It's the head law enforcement office of this country, guys. She's not, going through every list. Heads of, like, same thing with Kash Patel. Yes, the buck stops with them. I understand that accountability, the chain of command. But I'm talking about, she's not like doing deep dives into every single person on the Epstein flight list. She's not doing deep dives into like the people in Chicago in the mayor's office that were made it a sanctuary city. She has a lot of minions. Here's another thing too. Tulsi Gabbard at DNI. I'm surprised she's not getting any shit at this point. When she was at not this cabinet meeting yesterday, but the previous one, when she said my team of many people went through all those RFK, JFK, and MLK documents that were sitting in a warehouse in Washington, D.C. somewhere for 40 years, right? She was, Tulsi Gabbard's not sitting there, in a file box with a flashlight at 2 a.m, scanning documents into PDFs. Yet people on our side of the aisle thinks that's how shit works. It's really quite offensive to me. I love the way you vote, MAGA, but some of you just are not that bright. And I hear you in spaces say shit like this, so I'm not making it up. Anyway, threat, finish, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, just in closing, it's like regarding the Pam Bondis and the Kash Patels, they can only tell you so much. They have ongoing investigations. What are they supposed to do? Yeah, can you imagine Coach Belichick comes on a sports talk show and says, "Yeah, we're playing the Redskins on Sunday, and here's what we've have identified weaknesses in their defense and how we're going to counter it." Like, no, because if you spout off too much, you're just giving the people that you're going to put up on charges and have a trial, you're letting them know what your tactics and your strategy is going to be so that they can formulate a defense against it. Like, people have to just calm down, put your thinking cap on, grow a little patience, and realize this ain't getting solved this year. It's just not. But we'll start to see progress, and that progress will be slow and continuous, probably for years to come. That's all.
Right. Yeah. A lot of us think, and my own ego gets in the way a lot, threat. If I'm not kept in the loop on everything, I think that they're hiding something from me or from us, or that, this isn't going fast enough. Yeah. I think I've gotten better in that regard. I had a lot of personal work to do because even though I wasn't on this app in the first administration, and I know there were no spaces I don't think there were spaces in 2017. If there were, I didn't know about them. I remember watching a lot of Periscope, but anyway, I digress. I think I had personal work to do because I knew nothing about the Q stuff. People were just way down that road for me. It was a little too much for me. People, it became like an organized religion uh, of sorts, and that's just not where my head was at, and it still is not there. Maybe you could say I'm not so intellectually curious, but who's to say? Are Q drops the marker for intellectualism in rabbit holes these days? I don't know. So, and I don't think anybody in here knows. I'm happy that you like it and that you find it interesting. Um, but it's not for everybody, and it shouldn't be. Everybody gets to where they need to go at a different point and via different methods, you see. All right. It's not a one size fits all. That's why I'm telling you guys, you got to be patient. Look at what Pete Hegseth is going through. He's fucking firing somebody in the Pentagon every other day that's either a Biden holdover or this whole thing with the signal thing. Mike Waltz, I know many of you lost respect for Mike. I don't even know, guys. I understand we've all used maybe Signal or Telegram or some sort of encrypted app. I don't think if Mike Waltz was behind that, adding that reporter from the Atlantic, he would not still be in his position, which is a pretty prominent one, the national security advisor. So there are people. Why do you think Trump won again? So the Democrats are just going to give up, just like the Obama holdovers made Trump's life a living hell in 2017 and 2018, the first half. Remember that? It wasn't that long ago. There's still Biden people there. There are still rhinos there that don't want Pete Hegseth to have they're upset that this guy's making soldiers be in shape, soldiers and Marines passing their PT test. They're upset that all that work that Biden did, making the military transgender everything over the last 4 years, right? And Lloyd Austin. And we just expect that Pete Hegseth is going to walk into the Pentagon with no pushback. And oh, by the way, if there is pushback, we expect Pete Hegseth to have telepathy and be psychic and know that these people are really cool to me, but they're fucking me behind the scenes. It's quite frustrating, guys. It's as frustrated as you're going to see me get. Um, you should all have great expectations of these people that are working for us at the end of the day, but recognize two things. A, everything that we're up against is out to get them. Look at what Pete Hegseth went through. All they talked about was his sex life and immaterial to what his fucking job is going to be. Okay. I don't care that he had an affair. I care about how he's going to prepare our military to be ready for the future. Okay. His personal life should not factor into the thing. Okay. Uh, so you've got that component. We have these people are human, guys. Even Trump. At the end of the day, they're human. And they make mistakes and they're going to do stuff you disagree with. And you just have to cope and seethe with that. The alternative is much worse. You want to go back to Biden? No, thank you. I'll even say I'm settling for this. Okay. Apothecary, I'll go ahead and then I need to pivot into the markets, guys. So go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the boring market soon. I'm playing. Okay, so you used Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard as an example. Well, you know what? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could not get access to FDA records on drug approvals, drug research until they got rid of Peter Marks. They had to get rid of this guy before he could legally access the records, all of the research reports on our medications. They had to get rid of this guy. Think about this a minute. Okay. Think about it next time you put a pill in your mouth, that they were hiding this stuff from the head of Health and Human Services. He could not get the reports, the research reports on medications. Yeah, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. I mean, like I said, I'm staying in my lane, but hey, let's talk about the stock market. Love you guys. I'm going to drop on down.
Thank you, Apothecary. Go out of your. I would encourage you to go out of your lane, Apothecary, too, because the Maha thing, we're going to rely on you and other people to be the translator for us, because I'm not a man of science.
No,
So,
I'm staying in the Maha lane. I don't have the bandwidth to take on all this other stuff that you're watching. That's your job. I'm relying on you, man.
no, I want some. I want some stock tips from you, Apothecary. So I want to know. I want to know what a veteran nurse, what her positions are in the market. I'm only teasing. Thank you for everything you do. That's good, because that's actually the one thing I haven't been focusing on is the Maha thing at all, because like at all, mainly because I don't really eat the food that's tainted in the first place. So, uh, but I'm happy everybody else is getting an education on it, because it's long overdue, and we got a surplus of fat people in this country, and it's as Dr. Oz is pointing out, they use so much of the resources we have. People like a guy like me, I'm not in perfect health, but I got to tell you, I don't cost a single one of you a goddamn thing. I go to the dentist twice a year to get my teeth cleaned. I wear reading glasses, so I go to the eye doctors once a year. Uh, I'm not costing. I don't even use the insurance that my wife pays for through her job. I go to a naturopath, as I've shared with you many times. I am the least drag on this system. I don't even take fucking Advil. So I mean, if anything, you're not in the red with me. You're in the green. So that's all you got to do. Just do the best you can. Rosie, how are you?
I'm good and I'm loving the conversation. I've shared in another space that right now the propaganda, in my opinion, is like 10 times what it was before the election. And, we're all hearing it. So to find a good space where we know that people have their heads level is a gift every time we get it. And the propaganda that we hear, just bashing, questioning. I want to see, red jumpsuits or you know what, I want to see a case that can be prosecuted. And I'm happy that someone who gives the directive in the DOJ to the people who are beneath her, because it's not her doing the work, she gives the directives. She's the head of the agency, she's the face of the energy. Anyone who looks at an organizational chart will understand that. Yesterday I was not shocked, but when they went around the table for the 100 days and everyone's reporting, and RFK says we acknowledge that the HHS is God, what did he say? Complicit or I can't remember the other word.
Yeah, Apothecary talked about that, Rosie. Yeah, we that was a jaw dropper. We know what you're on
Georgia.
about. Yeah.
And the news didn't pick up on that. Not that we expected it to, but guys, like the news didn't pick up on it, but we did. We did. So, and you're talking about Q before. Deltas are good to look at, just to look back. 2019 Deltas, they're lining up every day. It's not my Bible. I keep my eye on it. I think it's fun. And some stuff has a lot to do with. So I don't take anything as gospel. I'm constantly, listening. But the people who are doing the spaces, keep your eyes out when you hear about X monetization. Pop in the space and take a listen. These guys aren't making money anymore. So what does that make them hungry for? Compensation. Who's going to compensate them? Maybe someone who has talking points to deliver. So the spaces hosts that we have known, keep in mind, they are not the same individuals that they were before. I think a lot of them have taken the money that they can, and that's to deliver a message. So I think most of them are pretty much shot to, you know what.
Thank you, Rosie, very much. Outstanding comments, guys. I appreciate you all this morning. I'm going to wrap this up by talking about the markets really quick. I think I got to pivot abruptly, guys, just because I don't have a lot of time. I got to get to work. Very happy that you guys got to say what you needed to say. I appreciate you all. But the markets, right? This might be the shortest bear market, which is a negative term. that we've ever seen, because it wasn't really a bear market, as we're all realizing here and there, aren't we? What did I say Tuesday? Unless you are willing to deal with financially and emotionally the prospect that when you buy a stock that it could lose, doesn't matter what, whether it's a tech stock or a mining stock or whatever, doesn't matter. Tesla, who cares? Who gives a shit? You need to be in a position where mentally and emotionally you could deal with potentially losing 50% of that stock's value at any given time. Because when you buy it, you want to hold it for a long time, in my opinion, so you can maximize the return on investment. Okay. This kind of goes hand in glove with what Rosie was talking about with the monetization on X, because I've seen a lot of people I follow that are upset that their payouts aren't coming and all that. And I think they're realizing potentially this gravy train has stopped. Um, Now remember, when Elon bought this, he spent 45 billion of his, he liquidated his Tesla stock, which he was not too happy about, to buy this app. I think he'll get his return on investment, but that's why everything is monetized on here now. I love how people we have this, for the most part, free speech universe on X here, and yet we think that all these nice features are free. This is the same people who don't like tariffs. They think it's a transitory tax to the consumer. I'm a big I'm going to get on a macro level here for a second, guys, so you can follow what I'm trying to put down here, because I think this is important. And somebody who has a diametrically opposed view to what I'm about to say, at least I could plant the seeds and give you the argument, give you the receipts as to why I think the way I do. I'm going to tie tariffs into um, using this app and the potential cost outside of what we're paying for certain features for all of us. I'm a big believer in a consumption tax, which is not quite the same thing as a national sales tax. Okay, whether that's the gas I put in my truck, whether it's the food I buy, whether it's the plane tickets I book for vacations, etc., the tools I buy, all that stuff. I'm kind of a big in favor of that versus, let's see, the IRS, uh, property tax, inheritance tax, capital gains tax, wealth tax, death tax, tax. Okay. So if you're a consumer, which we all are, how are you, if you're a frugal person, which I applaud. I am not a frugal person, but I appreciate and respect those that are in my life. Okay. Um, you are in control over the amount of quote unquote tax slash duties slash tariffs slash VAT, which is an abbreviation for value added tax, that you pay in your life if we had some form of a consumption tax. So if we had that system in place and you wanted to buy a kayak, right? And you owned a kayak and it cost you $750 for like a two-seater kayak, uh, you know, good for the ocean, good for the lake, in all purpose, good product, okay? But now, because some of the plastic that was made to produce that kayak came from China, you want to get an updated version of that two-seater kayak with high back seats. Oh, now it's $1,000. It's $250 more, right? Or 33.3% more because of the tariffs. Because it's made you got it at Walmart and it's all fucking Chinese plastic, right? There's not a single thing that an American person touched, despite the fact it's an American brand of kayak that you're buying in a Walmart in the United States of America. Okay, you guys, all simple stuff here. Everybody's keeping up with me, right? So how do you get around that? Okay, I don't want to spend 33% more for the same kayak that I've owned for a decade. Yet I still want to enjoy uh, the summer on the lakes or on the ocean, whatever, you know? I prefer kayaking on the ocean versus a closed body of water any day. I am not a freshwater guy, as you know. I like the salt water. So anyway, I digress. How do you get around that? What's the workaround? Well, two things. You could squirrel some money away to pay that extra 250 for the same kayak, right? You can go on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and try and find a used one. And guess what? You're probably going to get 90% a 90% new kayak for maybe 50% less of what you paid at the original 750 kayak that you need to get rid of because it doesn't work for you anymore. Okay? Or it's a red one and you're sick of red and you want to get a blue one. I don't know. So that's the workaround. But then you have to think about, okay, I kayak roughly 15 days a month in the summer. So is it worth it to me? It's something I really enjoy. My family likes it. I like kayaking. It's what I look forward to. I'm in a cold weather state. I only get 2 months of summer. I look forward to it all year long. In that case, that 33% raise in cost is going to be worth it to you because it's a hobby you enjoy doing. It brings you happiness. So you don't mind paying that uh, extra money because of the tariff, because you're buying a product that's made in China. Okay. So I hope you've all followed me there. I think we have decisions to make. And I think that Americans have made bad decisions over the last 35 years because we just seek the cheapest item. Everything is cheap, 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 cheap. The least amount of money, you want the least amount of financial investment for the biggest return on the investment, the ROI. Okay. So I've shared with you many times, I don't buy cheap tools for my job. Okay. I probably overpay, but trust me, the customer will always pay for whatever I buy one way or another. Okay. Guess what? The contractor you hired to work on your house, if he had to buy a new pass load nail gun uh, to put your siding up and you got a big ass house and a big ass 2-car garage, and you see him work and you walk out there and you say, "Hey, Jim, that's an awesome nail gun." "Oh yeah, it's brand new. The thing cost me $1,500. I had to get new hoses for the compressor and everything." "Oh, that's a lot of money." You know what Jim's trying to tell you? Uh, that he bought that brand new gun to do your siding job, and you're ultimately paying for it. If he's any sort of good businessman, you just paid for that $1,500 pass load gun that Jim's using to put your siding up. Okay, my customers do. Okay, that's why I buy whatever tool I want because I'm a smart enough businessman to factor that into my cost. Okay, I'm doing a kitchen at the end of this month. Okay, the customer, they're 83 years old, they're have osteoporosis. This dude is in no position to move his old appliances out in order for my guys to tear apart the old kitchen. So, and he's got appliances that are European, very well made, and very fucking heavy. And I got to put them in storage for like 2 months. So I'm going to go buy a $400 dolly because I don't have an appliance dolly that, you know, I don't really do that stuff. And usually the customer's responsible for getting the shit out of there. I'm going to help this guy. But you know what? The hour it's going to take me to go to this moving and container place that's an hour from my house that has this dolly at a reasonable price that I'm probably going to use once in my life. Okay. The hour it takes me to drive up to Westbrook, Maine to buy it, the hour it takes me to drive back to my home in southern New Hampshire, and then the price of the dolly. Guess what? This old guy's name is Bruce. Brucey, you just added about $700 to this job, plus the time you're gonna pay me and Mike because I'm gonna need help. This is like a 3-man job. Me and 2 other guys to take all these appliances out while we rip apart your kitchen and put them in a storage unit that you're paying for, so I can move them back when the job is done. Because his appliances are new. There's no reason to replace them. But they need to get the fuck out of there so I can do what I have to do for 2 months. So there you go. So I factor that into the job, friends. Okay. This is the same thing with your what you decide to buy going forward, with what you decide to consume going forward under this new economic reset we're under. If you don't want stuff to go up, don't buy it. That's option A. B, try and find a reasonable facsimile of said product, used usually, or something that does 80% of what you're looking for that's in your price range, right? It might not be the whole thing, the whole 9 yards, but maybe it's like half that. That's option two, or Facebook Marketplace or whatever. Option three. I know it was quick and easy to get stuff on Amazon and, because it's at your house in 2 days, but you might not have that option for everything, guys. You might not be able to order thumbtacks on Amazon because you don't want to stop at Office Depot on your way home or whatever. I mean, we got to start, choices like that, guys. If that ruins your fucking day, that's a bad habit you're in. That's a really bad habit we're in as Americans. Instant gratification. I don't like going to stores because people are annoying. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't like being born 5'11". Maybe I wanted to play in the NBA, and I wish I was 6'5". This is just shit you have to deal with in life. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it really bothers me that my fellow Americans have been in that mentality of cheap and getting there quickly instead of effective and fair priced. So I'm big into fair pricing. I'm big into fair trade. But we've become so accustomed to just not putting in any effort to get our daily goods. And we've avoided the public to do that. We've made Jeff Bezos a multi-billionaire. Okay. And I'm guilty of it too. There's still 2 or 3 things I buy on Amazon regularly because I can't seem to get them anywhere else. And it's not even so much the price, it's just the fact that there's a certain magnesium I like a certain brand, and I just, if it was 10 bucks more, I'd still buy it from Amazon. I just like this magnesium. It works for me, but I can't find it. I'm not going to drive 120 miles to get it.
Hey,
I might
Gads,
drive. Yeah, yeah.
I just want to mention what you're saying right now. I just want to add, imagine the world where we're so dependent on Amazon that all the businesses around us shut down and we're relying on them and then they stop. I'm just talking about the possibility of us having nowhere to shop.
Exactly. But Howard Lutnick talked about this yesterday, Rosie and everybody else. They ended those duties for certain things, particularly with Mexico and Canada. But there was a situation in which minimus, they call it. So, certain boxes, certain containers that were under a certain weight didn't get any duty coming in from the ports like in Long Beach or whatever, where China ships a lot of their cargo comes in through Long Beach, California. I think the most of it on the West Coast anyway. Makes sense. It's a huge port. But anyway, um, Howard Lutnick says the minimus in these small container goods, okay, that's what put the mom and pop stores out of business. So all the we'll say the stuff you buy at the dollar store, I really hope you're not going there. But Dollar General and Walmart, so we'll say the $1 to $25 household items that you used to get in the 80s at like what was an American like Woolworths? Did you have that? Uh, we had a Woolworths near where I grew up. It was like when you walked in there in the 80s, it was like going back in time to the 50s. Had a lunch counter, it had a juke. It looked like Happy Days. You know the show Happy Days? That's what it looked like. And my
I
mom would
loved
go there.
Woolworths.
That was in America. You remember my mom would go in there for like dish towels, like all the stuff that you guys buy on Amazon and Walmart and Costco now. It was replaced by a local store. Uh, and of course, there was no delivery for this shit in the 80s, but that's what put those places out of business. And Lutnick talked about that yesterday. It's because once the first NAFTA hit, and once the first Walmart opened near me in 1994, Okay, they didn't come up to the Northeast, to my knowledge, until around that time. And that's when Woolworths went out of business because they couldn't compete with Walmart. We had another place called Rich's, or Richie's, which was kind of like a very tiny Walmart, or Kohl's type place. And I remember I got a Huffy BMX bike out of there as a kid. I got my cleats for Little League out of there. There was no Dick's Sporting Goods when not in my area. I'm from a very, desolate area. There was none of that shit. Those places all left once the first Walmart opened. And that's what Lutnick was talking about. The Chinese have cheated every which way the last 35 years with quote unquote free trade loopholes. And they were getting those shitty items to your Walmarts and what have you, um, through that small container method, where not only did you got inferior product that was made with slave labor that we were all buying like fools, but also they weren't even fucking paying a duty, which is a tariff basically. A duty is basically a tariff on something that's under $100. You pay them at all ports of entry. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. They were getting into the country for fucking free. So Trump said, "Fuck that." No, I think it's 750 and under. It's not waived. The minimus, they call it. It's a type of duty tax for something coming into the United States, right? Something to think about. All right, Susie, I think you're going to be the last speaker.
Sorry, I'm late arriving. I couldn't agree with you more. It is so bad here in Oregon. First off, I hate Walmart. Ever since they wanted to arrest me for not wearing their stupid mask, I've been boycotting them, trying to find anything in this community that I live in. Forget like going to the health food store. It's nothing but vegan garbage. I can't find any of the vitamins that I like there, and I have to put up with everything. When it comes to clothing, I went to one place. There's very few clothing places open anymore. All of them have closed. The malls are absolutely like dead. Like like who died? I mean, there's nobody there. Kids are not there. I mean, the kids used to hang out. Let's go to the mall. Mom, can you drive us to the mall and come pick? Yeah, sure. It's dead. The last two times I went into this one place called Kohl's to get clothes, and because I'm little, it's a problem because everybody in Oregon is like, extra large plus plus plus. It's bad. Uh, I've had to strip the mannequin because the mannequin's the only person that can wear my size. I mean, it's that ridiculous. And it was the only cute thing that I liked in the entire store. It was like, okay, I like that. But the mannequin's wearing it. Let's strip the mannequin. I did ask someone to help me strip the mannequin so I didn't look odd and weird. But it's just insane. I mean, shoes, the days at the shoe store are all but dead. I found one shoe store in the mall that had decent prices that, and selection. So it's gotten to the point where, especially in these blue states, you don't have much of a choice. We've got some, if you drive up, there's factory outlet stores. I've gone there a few times, and it's kind of where the touristy people go. But like, who comes to Oregon anymore, tourist wise? Like, nobody wants to come here. It's such a disgusting place. It's just, anyway, now my Zen is all screwed up. Thanks for bringing this up.
Yeah, no, it's a touchy subject for everybody. It's we've all done it, and I what do you call it? I'm guilty of it too. I try very, very hard not to buy. I hate Walmart. I don't go to Walmart for anything. I hate it. I hate Target. I hate Walmart. I don't like Marshalls. I don't like. I, I tend to buy my clothes at. I get my work clothes out of Costco, like because they got. And some of that shit's made like Orvis. That's made in the U.S. I like Orvis shirts for work in the wintertime because they got that lining in them, right? So
Okay,
I'll
but
do.
you're not a woman who wants to look halfway decent and half well. like you don't, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you don't want to look like the frumpy fat chick that goes to Walmart in her jammies. I mean, you want to look somewhat fashionable. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you. That
Well, there's
women's,
all
yeah. I
remember
mean, I don't
well,
want to look like every frumpy Oregonian who like just got out of bed, didn't bother combing their hair, or goes out in their jammies. That's the way it
yeah.
is here. It's like I was in Toronto. I was very fashionable. I love fashion. You know, Apostle Carol will get this because I think both of us. I wanted to be a fashion designer, but like my dad said, we don't want any starving artists in our household. So I was like, okay, well, fine, whatever. I'll be a nurse. But that was my first love, is like drawing fashion. And I come to Oregon. It's like, oh my God, what is going on? Yeah, so I'm pretty much forced to do the Amazon thing because at least they have sizes, they have variety. I don't know where, and Facebook. I'll tell you what, on Facebook, which sounds really weird, there's a whole bunch of fashion stuff there that I really like. Now, they tell you bullshit like, oh, this is made in South Carolina. Well, it's not. I get it. It's from China, but it's absolutely freaking cute and it's in my size. So you're kind of, it really ticks me off because you're really left with, what else am I going to do? I'm going to do the frumpy Oregon, like go out in my jammies bullshit. And if I can even find a pair of jammies that are in my size, that'd be a freaking wonder too. I've even gone to like sometimes I'll buy t-shirts and stuff at the Tractor Supplies place, while my husband is there, getting feed or whatever, or hardware stuff or whatever. Oh, let's pick up some t-shirts. Anyway, I'm sorry. I need to shut my mouth now.
Yes, can I just give her one a couple
Yeah.
tips?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Susan, I mean, you said you're kind of tiny, so I don't know. I mean, I'm short. That's. I mean, I don't know if you're defining yourself as skinny, tiny, like, or just short. Um, so other than bags and shoes, like name brand wise, I'm not gonna get into that, but I'm gonna say
How tall
so.
how tall are you, Stephanie?
I'm 5'1", bro, and then the more I shrink
5'1".
as I get older, I'm going to be getting those
That
handicap signs for
that's
parking.
that's pocket size. That's
I
like
know.
fun size.
I'm
5'1".
going to be a midget. Well, a legal midget, probably by the age of 60. So I will get that handicap sign for parking. I told everybody, my mom at least. She's like, you can't get that. I said, Mom, if I get below the 5 foot level, mark my words, I'm getting that handicap sign. I legitly can get it. So so that's how tall I am. But if you like, I said I like for like sweatpants and sweatshirts, I go to Victoria's Secret or Pink, love them, and especially when they have the sales, love it. I don't know, like I said, there's a website I actually happen to like. It's called Fashion Nova. I mean, you can get like simple shit. There's some cute shit on there. Macy's. I mean, I don't know if you have Macy's out by you. Could shop online. But I mean, yeah, as I said, depending on, like I said, when it comes to like like sweatpants and just lounge, I mean, Victoria's Secret and like Pink, they do have good sales. Like, you get like 2 pairs of sweatpants for like maybe what, 60, $70 when they're fucking comfortable as hell and they last long. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know your style, but I mean, Fashion Nova's got a ton of
Well,
shit.
yeah, and I've done the Victoria's Secret thing, although I don't really like it. They do have really good clothes, and I'm taller. I'm 5'5" and 115 to 20, depending on what I ate for dinner. But so some of their stuff is actually too long, and I don't really want Victoria's Secret. But I'll tell you, when I was bra shopping and I was getting bras in different places, and I'm not, a big girl. Obviously, I'm not real chesty, but I put some weight on and needed to readjust. And I'll tell you what, nothing, I don't, whatever you think of Victoria's Secret's policies and whatnot, I went into a Victoria's Secret. I was like, you know what, these other bras are just not working. Everything I bought online, nothing fits me right. They have the best, and you've got the girl right there. Thankfully, they haven't done the whole transgender. Let's have a transgender woman help you in the changing room, because they literally, like, if you don't mind, they'll come into the changing room with you and help you and measure you and figure out exactly what you need. And they're just incredible. And the
Susie,
best bras.
I just got a few minutes left here.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. No, it's all right.
sorry, we went off on you.
It's fine. No, I gotta head to work and get some shit done today. Yeah, but I understand. Just try and do the best you can, everybody, with where you buy stuff. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And I wish more of you would grab a mic and tell me where I'm wrong, because I'm not learning anything if I'm not being if people aren't being argumentative with me. So I learn best when I'm getting admonished. Okay, I learn all my lessons the hard way, which is fine. I'm not going to change how I am at my age. So I do wish some of you would come up here and tell me how wrong I am about Pam Bondi and how wrong I am about everything else I've been running my pie hole about the last 2 hours. But I guess not. But the opportunity is always there. And I do hope you guys have, like I said, have a great day. Stay paused. The next 100 days are going to be just as productive, especially, I think, from an economic standpoint, like I've been trying to lay out to you guys, in particular with the stock market, in particular with these trade deals that I obsess about because they're just very interesting to me. What else? Well, those are the big things, aren't they? I mean, that's really what dictates how we do everything. And yeah, have a good day, guys. Have a good day. Try to not be so negative, and not saying anybody in here is or was acting like it, but um, we're making good progress. It might not be the progress. I know everybody wanted the Epstein list out, so you could Google all these New York Democrat lawyers that you know nothing about, and you're not going to learn anything about them. But that's okay if that's what you need to get through your day. Like I said, I'd rather they just get hit by a truck or a bus. I don't need to know their names. I just like the universe to take out the trash. Okay, when you mess with kids, there's only one solution for that, isn't there? Uh, so think about that. Think about you should watch that cabinet meeting yesterday, which was not a lot of grab assing because those I've been tracking what they've been doing as we all have, and they're actually solid accomplishments. Okay, so you should really. It was about 2 hours. You should listen to it and start knowing that these are happy warriors we have there now, positive people. It's not like the first administration so much. There's no Mike Pompeo or any of that shit or John Bolton. Uh, just starting understanding these people are working very, very hard, guys, and they're up against almost impossible odds to make a difference. Do you know what I mean? So, anyway, have a good one. If there's any spaces worth listening to, I know I ask you this every day. Uh, Send them my way. Let me just give you some. I do appreciate that, but I'm not into conspiracy realm. I'm not into astrology. I'm not into crypto rooms. So I get, everything
He
else I'm
does
pretty
like good
open with.
simp fights, though. That you do like. I'll keep my ear out.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But they blocked me, Rosie. I depend on other people. I mean that's great. I'm happy that they're open and that they're yelling at each other. But I sadly I can't participate as a listener even. So um,
They're on
because man,
Mario stages now at night. They've made it onto Mario stages. They paid their price.
yes, that I have noticed. I have noticed that. Charlie Cooper or whoever. But anyway,
No, the Indian guy's up there. He was up there last night.
who hyphenated
Yeah.
in Mario's room?
Yes. Not last night. I think the night before. Yeah. Him and that alligator guy and the baby caveman.
Oh
All
Jesus.
supposed Sims. So that's what I'm saying. This train wreck's
No, no,
available and it's in a Mario space. I'll give you a heads
no,
up
not
if I hear them talking about it.
no, not supposedly. They are just Sims, full blown, Rosie. So.
They're actually sabotaging Ron. Like Ron's screwed. It's over for him.
But so on that note, really quick, did Ron DeSantis say he wanted to deport 10,000 illegals from Florida to Guantanamo or El Salvador?
He came
So,
out full-throated with the Trump agenda in Florida. I'm not sure the particulars, but last
but
night, yes.
but these are illegals in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm asking. Okay. All right. So for those of you who think that Ron DeSantis is so fucking awesome, how is it that he even has 10,000 illegal immigrants to deport?
He has so much more than that. Like all these new constructions, who's building them? They're all illegals, all of them.
Oh, I know, but Rosie, he's conservative. He's more conservative than Trump. Well, not when it comes to law and order, he's not. I don't know if you people understand this, but there are a lot of Democrat sheriffs in the state of Florida. Look at where was David Hogg's school there in Broward County.
Parkland.
Yeah, okay. Democrat sheriff Scott Israel. Okay, people think that Florida is like this, on the sheriff level. They think it's like Oklahoma, or it's not like that, guys. There are, I would say, 60% of the sheriffs in Florida are Democrats. So, usually it's a safe bet that they're somewhat soft on crime. So, and by the way, the Florida sheriffs, do you know that state in particular, most, including a couple of Republican ones, I'm not too happy about that. Most of the sheriffs in Florida are not members of the NRA. Can you fucking believe that?
How can we search that? Because I have a good sheriff. I wanted to.
I'm an NRA member, so I get the mailing. I don't
I'm going
go
to
on
send you a name.
All right, yeah. So they track that because sheriffs, of course, run just like your Congress people, so they should be vetted. If you have a sheriff that's the Democrats, they don't expect that. If you have a Republican sheriff and you're in a red state like Florida, Texas, they better be NRA members. Like, that's unacceptable, because that shows how, Second Amendment for thee, but not for ye type of thing. That's unacceptable if you have a Republican sheriff that does not support, you know, a lot of sheriffs don't like civilians to have certain AR platforms, even in red states. They can't really do anything about it, but um, yeah, you gotta vet sheriffs, guys. I mean, look at judges. Look what we're learning about judges, those that aren't appointed. Okay, you got to look into sheriffs the same way you tear through the life of your Congress people or governors or senators. You got to do that with judges and sheriffs too. So, Rosie, to answer your question, I don't go on the NRA website. I just read the paperwork they send me. That's how I know. There's too many Republican sheriffs in this country that are not NRA or GOA members. That's not good.
In order for people to keep transparency, though, I'm wondering if there's like a database that people can go to. Like, I'll find out if mine is. I'm fairly certain we're encouraged to shoot people the moment they enter our home.
Just email his office. Let one of his lackeys get back to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do. All right, you guys have a wonderful day. Cheers. Appreciate it. Bye.
First off, let me convey to my family, friends, and supporters that now is not the time to gloat. We must remember that most of our left-leaning friends are good people who want the same things in life as we do, but simply think differently on how to get there. It is now time to be the bigger man, to extend an olive branch and unite all reasonable people of this great nation. God has blessed America, and together with President Trump, we will make America great again.